So the next step is to split all these surfaces with these particular curves. So let's try splitting them. So you can select one particular face at a time and you can type in split on the command line. Once you type in split, you can see this particular command split appear over here. You can click on it, and for the cutting objects, which is our curve over here, you can select the curve and you can press enter when done. Once you do that, you can notice that this particular surface is split into two. So this is the upper part and that's the lower part. So we can go ahead and repeat the same process over here and over here as well. So let's select our surface, type in split and press enter. And for the cutting object, we can select the curve that we just projected and press enter once again, and our object will be split into two. We can repeat the same process for the front face as well. We can select the face and we can type in split and press enter. And for the cutting object, we can give this curve and we can press enter once again, and our entire face will be split into two parts. So now that we have split up this particular geometry into faces, we can select the parts that we don't need and we can actually group them. So we can select these particular faces that we don't need, and we can hold on to shift and select them one by one. So you can select these faces that you don't need, and the rear face as well. And we can also select the faces over here that we don't need, which is this and this particular face over here. So once you're done selecting all of it, you can type group, so that you can group this entire geometry together and press enter. And after grouping it, you can go on to your construction geometry layer and do a right click and you can select change object layer, so that all of those geometries are made into the construction geometry layer. So the construction geometry, if you turn it on, you can now see that all these geometries belong to the construction geometry layer, and this is what we have used to create our actual geometry, which is this particular one. So now we will be converting the projected curves into a closed curve. So first of all, let's select the surfaces that we have just split by holding on shift, and you can select these multiple surfaces and you can type in hide in the command bar. Just type hide and press enter, so that we can hide these surfaces for a while. And now the next thing that we will do is we will also hide these particular curves that we have on the bottom. So we can just select these curves one by one like this. You can hold on to shift and you can select these curves. All you need to keep is the projected curves, and the rest of it you can hide. You can check whether any of the curves are left. So you have these two over here, you can hold on to shift and you can select. You can do the same on the other side as well. Once you have selected all the curves on the bottom, you can press hide again and press enter. Now that we have only the projected curves left, let's go into the top viewport. You can double click out of the perspective viewport and go on the top viewport. And now what we'll do is we'll join these curves. So make sure that you are in the external layer. So you can double click on the external layer that you have under all curves. So you can double click on the external layer and make sure that you are in this layer. Now you can select the shortcut, the polyline shortcut from over here, and you can click on it and you can join these curves like this. Now let's go and join the other two sides, and we can do the same over here. So once you have joined the lines, you can move back into your perspective viewport. Now what we can do is we can select all these curves and we can type join, so that it's joined into one complete closed curve like we had planned. So as you can see, the command line tells us that 6 curves joined into one closed curve. So we have joined these open curves into a closed curve, and once it's joined into a closed curve, you can select the curves, and now we are going to patch up this entire surface. So you can select the curves and you can just type in patch. So once you type patch, you can press enter, And after typing in patch, you can see that the patch surface options just appeared over here. The U spans and the V spans are 50 by 50. You can let them be, and you can click on preview to see what the patch surface actually looks like. So that is a good looking patch surface that we just have created, and you can click on OK, and that will be the roof structure that we need. So once all of this is done, you can click outside, and the next step would be to create a layer named roof. So you can go on the layers tab, and you can click on new layer over here. So just make sure that you are outside the all curves sub layer type, so you can close the all curves, and now you can click on new layer, so that the new layer is created outside the all curves layer, and you can name it roof. So once you have named it roof, you can press enter. So now you can select this entire geometry, the curves along with the patched surface. You can select it, and you can select the roof layer. You can go inside the roof layer, and you can right click, and you can select change object layer. So once you click on change object layer, now you can change the color of the roof to a dark green and hit OK. So after you have created the roof, what you want to do is you want to go to your all curves layer. You want to open it up like this, and you can turn off the external layer if it's turned on, and you can turn on the walls layer if it is turned off. You can turn on the walls layer like this. If you turn on the walls layer like this, you can also go inside the walls layer by double clicking on it. So make sure that you are inside the walls layer and the tick is over here, and you have the walls layer on. So once it is on, you can see these curves. These are the wall curves that were initially provided in the Rhino file. So you can select these curves, and you can move out a little bit, and you can type extrude curve on the command line. Once you type extrude curve, this particular command will appear. You can click on it, and it will ask you to include self-intersecting curves. That's fine. You can just click on yes, and you can extrude the curves, and you can make sure that the solid is turned to yes. You can extrude the curves a little higher than the roof, so somewhere over here, and you can click. So once you have extruded the curves like this, what we can do now is split it up. So you can just type split in the command line and press enter. So it will ask you for the object to split. So the object that we want to split over here is our walls. So we can just select the walls, the 3D walls that we just created right now, and we can press enter, and now it will ask you for the cutting objects, which is our roof. Then you can select your roof, and once you are done selecting your roof, you can press enter, and the split will happen. It takes a little bit of a time, but I guess the split is done. And once the split is done, you can check it by clicking on the top part, and you can see that the poly surface on the top has been split up. And once you have split it up, you can just delete that part. Now as you can see, you also have an extra line of curve over here, so you can just select and delete that, and now we have a perfectly organized roof and the walls. So you can select the roof, and you can hide it, or you can just turn off the roof layer from over here to check the walls. So you have perfectly aligned walls with the roof. So now that we have the roof and the walls, let's give our walls a different color so that it does not match with the roof, because both will be looking green. So you can select the color tab from the wall layer, and you can give it a brownish color like this, and you can click on OK, and now you can turn the roof on, and you can understand what we have actually created. So now we'll be trying to create the other parts of the roof. So for that, we can turn on all the layers like the roof and the imported image plan. Let's turn these off. You can move into the all curves layer by double clicking on it, and you can turn on all the layers in the all curve layer, and you can turn off the roof layer. Now let's go into the top view, but before moving into the top view, let's select all the 3D geometry that we have like this, and you can hide it by typing in hide and press enter. Now just making sure that you only have the 2D geometry in place, you can move into your top view. Now we will be trying to create the other parts of the roof. So looks like we don't need the amenities layer over here, so you can turn that off. So just the external, the walls and extra and the floors will be fine. So these 4 layers can be kept on and the amenities layer can be turned off. Now let's try and create the other arcs that we had on the roof, so that we can raise a part of the roof and keep the shading devices on the edges. So in order to create the shading devices, what we'll do is we'll go into our default layer. So you can double click on the default layer and enter it, and you can use the polyline shortcut over here, and you can move to this point, and starting from this particular edge you can create a line which is perpendicular to this particular curve, and until and unless it says perp, you can search for it, and when it says perp, which is short for perpendicular, you can click and press enter. You can do the same from the other side also. You can select the line shortcut and you can create a perpendicular line over here like this. Press enter. So once you are done creating these 2 lines, now we can actually fillet them. So you can type in fillet in the command line and press enter, and now we can see over here that the radius is 0.2, so we can increase that to around 20 and press enter. And now it's asking for the first curve to fillet. So this is the first curve, the second curve to fillet, and this is the second curve. So as you can see, the curve has been created, but in this case we want a fillet which is a little bit more higher, closer to the curtain wall over here. So let's do Ctrl Z and go back, type in fillet once more, but this time we want the radius to be a little bit more less. So let's type in fillet once more and press enter, and you can turn the radius to a little bit less number, like 15, and press enter. You can select the first curve, the second curve. Now that you can see the curve is a little bit more better than the previous one. Now let's try the same process over here using the fillet command, but firstly we have to create the curves. So you can select the polyline icon over here, and you can start from this corner, and you can move along this particular line like this and create a line somewhere over here. It says end, and you can click, and you can perform the same thing over here. Select this particular polyline, you can start from this end, and you can create a line somewhere over here, and just click and press enter. So once you're done with these 2 lines, you can type in fillet and press enter. Now it will ask you for the first curve to fillet, so let's select the first curve, which is this one. Now the selection menu has appeared, so once you browse in the selection menu, you can see that this is the curve that you actually wanted, so you can select that particular curve. And now it's asking you for the second curve to fillet, which is over here. So you can select the second curve, and the selection menu will help you in selecting. So you have to carefully select this black curve, the layer which is turned black, which is our default color. So you can select this layer. Once you select the layer, you can see that the fillet that has been created is too steep. We want a fillet which has a little bit more width over here. So let's try using Ctrl Z, but this time let's try using the fillet with a radius a little bit more steep, maybe 8, and press enter. Now you can select the first curve to fillet, and then you can select the second curve to fillet. This time you can see that the curve is a little bit more better than before. Now let's repeat the same process on this particular side as well. But for this particular side, as you can see that this edge is already in an arc shape, so we will want this particular edge to remain the same. So let's select the boundary curve that you have, and let's copy it using Ctrl C and Ctrl V. And after you have copied it, you can just explode it by typing in explode in the command bar. Press enter. Once you have exploded it, you can start deselecting the curves that you don't want using Control. So you can hold on to Control and you can deselect these parts of the curve that you actually want to retain. So you can deselect them one by one, as I'm doing on the screen right now. So make sure that you deselect all the curves. After you have deselected all the curves, you can delete the rest of the curves. You can let them be selected already and you can just press delete and delete the rest of the curves. Now what we can do is we can split the curves that we just have selected, and we can split the end up to here. So you can select this curve and you can type split, or you can also trim it if you want to. I guess trim will work better in this case, so you can just type trim and press enter, and it's asking you to select the object to trim, which in this case is this particular curve, so just press enter. Now it will ask you for the cutting objects, which is this, and you can press enter. Now you can actually select the curve that you want to trim, which is this one. Now as you can see, our curve has been trimmed from here to here. After trimming it, you can just select all these layers one by one. You can hold on to shift and you can select all these lines. Just make sure that you are selecting the correct lines. Once you have successfully selected the line, you can join it by typing in join in the command line, and you will have successfully created this particular edge. Now you can change this layer to the default layer, so you can right click on default and you can select change object layer. Once you have successfully done that, you can turn off the walls layer and the extra layer. And also the floors layer can also be turned off because we don't need it right now. So you can see that you have 3 of these curves that we have just created, and this one seems to be unjoined from over here, so you can actually create an extra line to join this, and let us select all of it and type join. Now you have 3 open curves, so you have 1, 2 and 3 open curves like this. So what we need is right now we need to turn on the roof layer, so let's turn it on, clicking on it, and let's move into the perspective layer. So once you move into your perspective, now what you actually want is you want to project all these curves that you just created onto the roof, and you want to split your roof into the respective parts. So you can select the curve one by one and you can type project and press enter. You can select the surface that you want to project onto. Just make sure that the direction is C plane Z. You can select your surface and you can press enter. Once you have pressed enter, now you can type split and press enter once again. And now you want to split this part of the roof. You can select your roof and press enter. You want to split your roof with this curve that you just projected. You can select your curve and press enter once again. And as you do that, you can clearly see that you have split roof to the following way. Now we can repeat the same command over here on this side for projecting this particular curve, but before projecting it, we can turn off the roof once. We can extend this particular edge a little bit so that while splitting the curve we do not have any errors. So you can select the polyline tool over here, you can select the edge of this curve and you can extend it like this. Just make sure that all your options are on over here on the bottom so that it automatically snaps, and once it snaps you can extend it a little bit like this, and you can select both the lines and you can join them by pressing join on the command line. Once you have joined them, now you can turn your roof on. Now you can project your curve onto your roof. You can just type project the command line and press enter, and you can select your curve that you want to project and you can press enter once again. Now it will ask you for the surfaces, which is our roof in this case. You can select the roof and press enter. Now you can see that the curve has been projected onto the roof, and once this is done you can actually split the roof up into two more parts. So you can type in split and press enter. It will ask you for the object to split, which is our roof in this case, and you can press enter once again, and it will ask you for the cutting objects, which in this case is this curve that we just projected, and you can press enter. Now your roof will be split up into one more curve over here, like you can see. So your roof is now split up into three parts. So you have this particular shading device over here on this face, you have this one over at this face, and now let's do the same on the other face. So just to make sure that there are no errors on the edges, you can just extend your line. You can turn off the roof geometry. You can extend the line a little bit so that there are no errors on the other end. You can extend the line from over here a little bit. Just make sure that the layer is in the default. You can extend it over here a little bit, and you can also extend it on this end a little bit. Just make sure that all the options are on so that it automatically snaps in this particular position. Once it is done, you can select all these curves by holding on shift. You can join them by pressing join the command line. Once you have joined it, you can successfully bring back the roof layer by turning it on, and you can project this particular curve once again as we did in the other two options. You can type in project and press enter. You can ask for the curve to project, which in this case is this particular curve. You can select your curve and press enter, and now it will ask for the surface on the poly surface to project, which in this case is our roof. You can select this part of the roof and you can press enter. Once you do that, the curve will now be successfully put up on the roof, and now similar to the other two edges will split once again, and we'll type in split in the command line and press enter. Select the roof and press enter once again, and select the cutting objects as our curve, and when we press enter, roof will now be split up into four parts. So you can clearly see, so you have first, you have second, and you have third, and you have the final central geometry. So after this particular geometry split up into four parts for the roof and for the shading device geometries, now what we are going to do is we are going to offset the curves that we just projected over here for creating a thickness of the roof part. So let's try and offset these particular curves. So you can select the curves and offset them in the opposite directions, but before that you can turn off the roof layer for some clarity, and once you do that you can actually select the parts and you can offset them by typing in offset and press enter. And for the distance, you can take a look on this particular side, and you can make sure that the offset is on this side, and the distance can be changed from 0.15 to 0.1 and press enter. You can create an offset of 0.1, and you can change the corner to sharp if it's not sharp, and let the cap be none. And once everything is in place, you can just click and you will have an offset. So you can repeat the same process on this particular side also. You can select the curve and you can type offset and press enter, and the distance should be 0.1, and you should offset your curve on this particular side, and you can press enter or just click. Now let's repeat the same process for this particular side also. You can select your curve to offset and you can press offset, select the command, and you can offset your curve on this particular side. Just make sure it's offset it on the inner side, and the distance is 0.1, and you can click and you can be done with the offset. Now once you have created these offsets, you can turn on the roof layer now, and once you have turned on the roof layer, you can select the offsetted curves and you can project them into your roof again. So you can select the curve and type project and press enter, and you can select this particular surface, the inner surface, to project these curves because we have offsetted them on the inner side. So once you have selected your surface, you can just press enter. As you can see, the curve will be projected in this manner. You can repeat the same thing on the other side also. You can select the inner curve and you can type project. You can select the surface and press enter, and the curve will be projected in this fashion. So let's try it for the third one. Select the curve and you can project it the inner surface. So once all the curves are projected, you can now split up your surface once again like we did earlier into few more parts. But in this case, as you can notice that in this case this particular curve is not complete in this direction. So what we'll do is we'll select this external curve and we'll delete it, because if we split it, it won't split up because it was an incomplete curve. So let's complete the curve on the bottom. You can select a polyline command and you can just create a complete curve like this, and just click anytime you are done. Now you can project this particular curve. You can also create a curve over here so that this particular curve is also completed in that sense. So you can select the polyline command once again. You can create another curve like this. So now we can select both of these curves. You can hold on shift and you can select both of these curves, and you can type project and press enter. You can project it onto the internal surface. Once you are done with it, now you can take a look that this particular surface will now be properly split up. You can actually join these curves. You can select these curves, join them if they are not joined up, and you can repeat the same for this curve as well. Select these curves and you can just type join and press enter. They'll be joined up. So once you are done with the curve projections, all you need to do is now select your inner curve and type split and press enter. Now it will ask you for the splitting objects, and you can select the inner offsetted curves for splitting your internal surface. Once you are done with that, you can press enter, and now as you can see, your surface has been split up into further strips like this on all the three sides.